come here, welcome. You are listening to the Mouse Knows Best podcast, your weekly dose of all things Disney.
Son, the party's going to...
Oh my. Are you... Walt Disney is in our house!
We're not taking you upstairs, Walt.
The Further Adventures of Walt's Frozen Head is a buddy comedy about Peter, a cast member at the Magic Kingdom, and the cryogenically preserved head of Walt Disney. Production took place last summer after a successful Kickstarter. Filming occurred in and around Orlando, not always with permission. But there's still a lot for us to do. There's visual effects, sound editing.
Is there anything else I should know?
Yes, try not to stare.
Music.
What are you doing down here? I'm sorry, you were saying something?
And the costs are adding up.
Good morning, Mr. Disney.
Now we need your help to finish this movie and bring it out into the world.
That's a cut. Just one more time. Give us...
So the question you may be asking, who is playing Walt?
Well, that's just what I was wondering, until I got a call from the producers. I'm Ron Schneider, and for 40 years on and off, I've been a writer and performer in theme parks across North America, including Disneyland, Epcot Center, and the Magic Kingdom. And though I've been a passionate fan of Walt Disney since the 1950s, I never could have imagined I'd be a part of anything like this. It's a wild story, told with respect, humor, and a lot of love. And I hope you'll be able to pitch in and help us finish it. Right now, though, I have to go shave and trim my mustache.
We're only a few steps away from completing this film, and you can help make this dream come true. Please take a look at the information and rewards below, and we hope you can help support Walt's Frozen Head.
So a friend that works with you at Disney World has never been to the Magic Kingdom. So you have to take him with your daughter on your day off.
Yeah, we'll go with that.
And as I watched my girls ride the carousel, I thought this would be so much better if we scheduled the ride times months in advance. And with that tweet, a legend was born, ladies and gentlemen. We are honored tonight to be joined tonight by the boss himself, straight out of the utilidors under the Magic Kingdom, Walt's Frozen Head, or as he's known when he's not on Twitter, Ben Lancaster. Ben, how are you tonight?
I'm doing well, and I should clarify, I'm actually Walt's intern.
Oh, okay. That's fair. Yes, absolutely. In case you don't know, Ben is the mastermind behind some of the most poignant and hilarious tweets you will ever see on Twitter related to Disney. It just, every time I get on Twitter and he has been tweeting at Walt's Frozen Head, it is just a fantastically awesome tweet. Ben, I just want to start off by asking you, how did you come up with this idea initially to start a parody on Twitter about Walt Disney himself?
Well, the idea for the movie actually preceded the Twitter account, even though we launched the Twitter account several months before we announced the movie. So it was kind of a cart before the horse. The Twitter account really started as a movie promotion device, and then sort of took off and gained a life of its own.
Awesome. Did you ever think that it would become what it is today? I mean, you have over 3,000 followers, and it seemed like every time you tweet, people are paying attention. Did you ever anticipate that coming to fruition when you first started it?
I didn't know. I didn't really have any ideas of what sort of metrics for success were. To me, it was just about, well, this'll kind of be a little good promotional tool. I didn't really think that it would sort of take over like it has, I guess.
But as you mentioned, you have a movie in the works, The Further Adventures of Walt's Frozen Head. If you haven't seen the trailer online, I'm sure that you can find it here on at Walt's Frozen Head on Twitter. Tell us a little about the movie. What is the plot of the movie? Just kind of the basic necessities of this film.
The plot is about, or it plays off the urban legend that Walt Disney was cryogenically frozen, or at least in the film version, his head was. And he is being kept in the utilidors, and every year the executives thaw him out to get his advice on how to run the company for the next year. But he's never been allowed upstairs to see the park that was sort of his final dream. And so one evening, a cast member winds up stumbling into the cryogenics lab, and Walt convinces this cast member to take him up to see the park for a day. And that really is what sort of kicks off the film.
That's amazing.
How did you come up with this idea? Was it your idea? Was it a group effort? How did this come to fruition?
Well, I'm in the UCF MFA film program, and I was actually working on a completely separate project. And a few of my filmmaker friends were just kicking around ideas at one point, and I suggested the title, "The Further Adventures of Walt's Frozen Head," thinking of it nothing more than sort of a one-off joke. And then I came home and was telling my wife about this conversation, and basically she told me I had to ditch the movie I was working on and make this one instead because it was such a better idea. And it was just really that one-off joke at first. So I really didn't think too much of it, but then started sort of outlining it in my head and seeing, what could I do with this? Is it more than just sort of an initial joke?
Huh, that's interesting. And you recently announced that you have Ron Schneider going to be playing Walt Disney. How did you get him for this role?
Actually, we just found his email. We knew we wanted someone with some stature to play Walt. I mean, the role is iconic. And so we had started sort of reaching out to some people, various parts of the country. And really it was sort of I wonder if he would work. I mean, I had read his biography. He has just a fantastic history of theme park performance, obviously is also the original Dream Finder. Just really has played some iconic roles. Took over for Wally Bogue at Disneyland, and just has this fantastic history with the company. And not only that, is just an absolutely talented performer. So it was an issue of just reaching out to him, and he is so incredibly thrilled to be on the project that I am totally humbled by his enthusiasm. So it is just, I think, an exciting partnership, and I'm hoping that he's looking forward to the final result as much as I am.
Absolutely. I saw his, I guess it was kind of a video of him when he was on your Kickstarter page today, and he just seemed so thrilled to be a part of it, and seeing that excitement gets me excited for it even more so than I was before, and I was already pumped for it. Joe,
it's fantastic to have someone who can sort of speak to its credibility, because I think a lot of people at first might be thinking, is this another Escape from Tomorrow or something along those lines? But I'm hoping it kind of reinforces our connection with the fan community.
I really geeked out when I heard he was going to be a part of this project.
Joe, do you have a question for Ben tonight?
Ben was with this kind of project, and on your website you have the Kickstart, and I'm happy to say I went and I did my part to get the post-production going, and I'm looking forward to the film. Unfortunately, I won't be down during any of the planned times, but still looking forward to enjoying the film when it's finished. Worthy project. The other question I had was, on your website, you said that this is not sanctioned by Walt Disney. So I'm just curious how you go about filming in the park with all the equipment and everything without drawing attention to yourself.
You stole my question, Joe.
Oh, that's the question that everyone wants to hear about, right? I mean, it obviously presents a challenge. It's not something that I think anybody should sort of take on lightly, filming without permission anywhere. But it is sort of something that was absolutely necessary to tell this story, to actually be in the Magic Kingdom. We had an earlier version of the draft where it was like, Walt Schmizney or something along those lines, and we were just going to sort of fake the whole thing. But at the end of the day, this had to be a story about the man himself. And so we knew we had to do it. And so that meant we sat down and came out with a plan. And this plan was a large color-coded Google Doc with spreadsheets and bits of the script chopped up. And we knew what every shot, we knew every angle. We knew every moment that we would have to capture that then we could sort of stitch it together in post-production. And it was, it was a big planning effort. There were scouting trips. We took a look over each of our locations. We took our actors there in advance to kind of walk through what they were going to be doing. And then we took them back to a sound stage where we had everything taped out based on the dimensions. And we ran through it with our camera people, knowing where the cameras were going to be. We had scouts set up to look for cast members who were paying us a little too much attention, and we would just move on if we were drawing attention to ourselves.
Very late. I noticed, I was going to ask you, when did you do this? Was this like last year, or was it currently this year? Because I know with all the new recent changes to the security screening to get into the park due to various reasons, it would probably be really difficult now to do anything like this.
I think you're probably right. Unfortunately, we live in a more dangerous world. We went through the bag check, and that was about it for as far as screenings goes. We actually shot on Dapper Day of 2015, so I think that was early May, end of April, and I think that was part of our blending in as well. There was a lot of fun costumes and people taking a lot of photography that day, and so something like us kind of could slide under the radar.
Yep,
that's the perfect disguise.
So Ben, I have a question here from one of our castmates here who's unable to be with us now. Her name is B. All right. And she wants to know what kind of message are you wanting to leave viewers with? She says, surely this film will contain a message, as it seems all Disney films do. What is the message you were trying to portray in this film?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, and it kind of, for me, it came out of the original idea. And if you're going to do a film about Walt's frozen head, you kind of have to ask yourself, why would someone take the extraordinary step of freezing themselves? Why would someone go through that effort? And then you come up with what's the obvious solution, is that he had to oversee this big final dream that he had. And I think it's out of that you kind of wind up getting your message, because the Disney Corporation likes to tell us over and over again that if you believe in your dreams, they'll come true. And it's this great message for kids, but then we kind of grow out of it because we look around and we recognize it doesn't always necessarily work that way. I don't think that's a bad thing. I don't necessarily think that's a good thing, but that's sort of how reality works. And so I wanted to make a movie that on one hand was very, I think, respectful and honored the legacy, but on the other hand really challenged that core premise and said there are dreams that we just have to let go. There are things that if we hold on to them too tightly, they're going to negatively affect our lives. And so we really have the story of two people who are holding on to things too tightly and that's getting in the way of them being able to move on and live their lives.
I'd say that is a radical yet very poignant message to get across in a film like this. But it is a comedy, right? It's not a straight drama. It is a comedy, right?
No, it is definitely a comedy.
Okay.
We're really kind of pulling our creative influences from the live action comedies of like the 60s. So we're looking at like That Darn Cat, The Happiest Millionaire, really things like that.
Some great influences there. Absolutely. So we've alluded to it a couple times, but you have a Kickstarter campaign active right now to help you through the post-production process of the film. When people donate to the Kickstarter, what exactly will their money be going towards?
We got it broken down a little bit more on the site, but basically, when you donate money to Kickstarter, first of all, those pledges are not collected until we are successful. So until we hit our goal of $9,500, no pledges are collected. Nothing happens on that. So if we don't make it, we don't get a dime. You don't get charged a dime. Those contributions just go nowhere. If we do get the money, the primary thing is going to be towards the sound design. Obviously we had to build our sound design completely from scratch when we were recording in the park. We didn't take in sound recording equipment. And so that's a lot of effort that we have some of which we have to hire out. Unfortunately, we've got some talented professionals who are working for very reasonable costs. But we did have to hire out some of those tasks towards the end. We're also really trying to do a live recording of our soundtrack, and that's another big part that the movie's the post production budget is going to. Beyond that, the color correction And then a big chunk is sort of taken up by the rewards that people get. So I hope people take a look at those. And I really do think we're offering some value in there. You can pre-order the film for basically $19.
It's a great deal, and I saw that today when I was on your Kickstarter. Saw that, I was like, that is fantastic, and surely something that I'm sure a lot of people will be very interested in. You mentioned B earlier. She has another question here, which I actually kind of want to know your thoughts on this too. She says, what do you think, honestly, is the likelihood of Walt being cryogenically frozen?
If I had to put a number on it, I would say 15%.
I think that's higher than a lot of people would want to say.
Okay. I mean, that's being generous too. I mean, it's almost probably not true, but I'll leave that little shadow of doubt there.
I like it. I like it. So, as we alluded to earlier, Ben, you tweet out a lot on Walt's behalf there, talking about just the state of Disney in general. So I just want to ask you a few questions about that, if you don't mind, just talking about your thoughts about Disney at large. And when you look at the state of the Walt Disney Company, what is the one thing that is most exciting to you, and also the one thing that's most disappointing to you?
What's most exciting to me is that I think they are having enormous success with their franchises, and they're not doing it wrong. That sounds bad, but it's really easy to screw up a movie. I mean, it's amazing that movies even get made, much less that they're halfway decent. Really, at the end of the day, every movie should be considered a miracle. And Disney is just with their Marvel franchises, with their Star Wars franchises, Pixar, Disney feature animation. They have a lot of really good, talented people who are really cranking out some very high quality, entertaining stuff.
Well, you alluded to it, so I'm going to ask your opinion on this too. What are your thoughts on the presence of Star Wars in the parks?
Personally, I like it at Hollywood Studios. I don't like it at Disneyland. Not that I don't think it's going to be good. Not that I don't think it's going to be, the answer to Diagon Alley or whatever it needs to be. It makes me cringe a little bit that this whole other franchise is introduced into Walt's Park. But that's just me. I mean, then that's just a gut reaction. What do you guys think about it? Have you guys talked about this on the show before?
Oh yeah.
we love Star Wars, so we have definitely talked about that before. And I think really our consensus is what you were saying. I think we think that it will fit well in studios, but we have a couple of folks here, even Steph, who's on here tonight, who go to Disneyland often, and they're not sold on it yet. Steph, do you want to elaborate on that?
Yeah, for me, I mean, I'm totally ecstatic about the whole Star Wars land. I think for me, it's just where it's going. I'm more a classic Disney-phile, I guess you'd say. I kind of miss the way that things were in the late 80s, early 90s. So the fact that they're kind of shrinking down the rivers of America, which to me is such an important feature in the park, because it really does bring together the whole country in Walt's vision of the park. So that they're kind of condensing that down and shortening the space, and it really just, to me, doesn't flow over in that area. Like, it's taking away Tom Sawyer's Island, which I still enjoy going over there. I'm excited for Star Wars Land, but I just think it should be connected more towards the Tomorrowland side of things, and not, it just seems kind of disconnected where it's going to go. Other than that, I'm excited for it. It doesn't belong there.
Yeah. I think that's a pretty common sentiment too.
Yeah, absolutely. And, obviously with the movie that you have coming out now, you probably are considered by a lot of people to be one of the authorities on Walt Disney, if you will.
Oh, I don't know about that, but
well, for the purposes of this next question, you're the authority on Walt Disney. How about that? So, when you mention Marvel and you mention Star Wars and you mention Pixar and all these franchises, do you think that Walt would have approved of all this expansion when it comes to Star Wars and Marvel and all that?
I mean, that's a really hard question. That's a really hard question to answer, and obviously we don't have the man himself. When I look at what Walt So I'll just answer with like trying to draw as many comparisons as I can. When I look at Walt picking up franchises, it was always to pull them apart for scrap and rebuild them into something he wanted. When he takes Mary Poppins, that's the central conflict, right? He's taking the idea of Mary Poppins, pulling out the bits he likes, throwing away the bits he doesn't, reconfiguring it, and coming out with something that's almost completely independent of the novels. And he does that sort of again and again and again. I can't think of a time when Walt just sort of picked something off the shelf and said, okay, we're just going to make more of this. Which is sort of what I feel like they're doing with Marvel, and very successfully too. I mean, I can't blame anything they're doing. They're making one good movie after another. Even their not good movies are decent, So,
Our one of our co-hosts just sent us a message. She's curious and wants your take on how does Walt's frozen head actually work without his body?
Are we talking about the biology or in the movie?
I guess it's Disney magic, right?
I mean, yeah, we're going to have to, we start off the movie by, taking you through the park as it's closing and then down through the utilidors and then into the cryogenics lab, and then Walt wakes up. And if you're not on board for the fact that a head is living in a jar in the very first 2 minutes of the movie, you're not on board. We're not going to get you there. This is just sort of we'll wave the wand and say this is how it works, and that's it. You gotta just accept it and move on.
Now, a lot of behind the scenes stuff, like the utilidors and everything, you said you created a sound stage for that? You didn't actually get access to any of the behind the scenes areas at Disney?
No, we didn't. All of those were either faked or shot in places that remarkably resembled their areas. So if you see some shots of the utilidors in our trailers, that was, depending on which shot it was, either the behind the scenes industrial hallways of the Florida Fashion Square Mall up on Colonial, if you're familiar with Orlando.
Yeah.
So it was that mall. If you go a level deeper, we're in the bowling alley behind, that's also on Colonial, Boardwalk Bowl, a little further down. If you go down further, we're in the gas power plant on UCF campus. So we got some fantastic locations. Oh, and they're also the chilled water plant that's also on UCF campus. We got some fantastic industrial locations. And then the cryogenics room itself is Orlando Brewing Company.
Great place to be frozen.
Yeah, really not bad, except it was blistering hot when we shot in there. They do not air condition it on the weekends, and it was in the middle of summer. But we managed, maybe with some liquid refreshment, but we managed.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, Ben, your Kickstarter is open for donations until July 10th. Is that the date?
That is. That ends on a Sunday, so we'll up until that last weekend we'll be taking donations.
And when are you hoping for this project to be completed?
Realistically, we are looking to do a film festival run in 2017. Hopefully that means we'll be seen at film festivals across the country. So wherever your listeners are, we hope to be next door. And we'll definitely be promoting that and get as many of our fans to those screenings as feasibly possible. After that, it's sort of up in the air, but we really do want a release by the end of that year on several VOD platforms. We might even do some live showings in places, especially places that we know are going to be a little more popular. But if you're in the Orlando area and you want to see it first, we do have a backers screening that we're doing in Orlando. We don't have the date completely set on that yet, but we're looking at December 2016. And if that's something you're really interested in, you should definitely check out the Kickstarter and see at some of the levels you can get tickets to that.
I need to find a time to get to Orlando this December. Then they can find the link to the Kickstarter on your Twitter page, correct?
That is correct.
Yes,
it's in the profile, but also I'm pretty much tweeting about it all the time, so I'm sure you'll be able to find it.
Yes, in
And
fact,
it's also,
if you,
I'm
even
sorry,
if,
it's also on waltzfrozenhead.com. That's where I found it.
That's right.
and we'll even make it one step easier for you. You can even go on our podcast Twitter page at TMKB Podcast, and we have it pinned to our profile right now. The link if you want to donate. Obviously, you can tell that Ben and his crew are hard at work and very passionate about it. And I speak on behalf of all of our listeners and our crew that we are super duper pumped for this film, and we just cannot wait for it, Ben.
We're great. We're really excited to bring it to you.
Yeah.
I guess the question, Ben, would be if it's such a success, or it will be such a success, will Walt's Frozen Head return to Disneyland?
No comment. There are no plans at this time. I'll just put it that way.
Could there be a sequel? Could there be a sequel, maybe?
I doubt it. I highly doubt that there's. I just don't think there's necessarily anywhere to go with the story. But I said the same thing about Finding Nemo. So who knows?
Oh, you went there. You went there. Now, Ben, we always ask this question to our guests that come on, just because it's a fun way of kind of ending it.
Okay.
And obviously, since you are obviously a big movie buff, what is your favorite Disney animated film?
Animated film.
Yeah.
Okay, my favorite hybrid film is Mary Poppins, but my favorite just straight animated film, probably Emperor's New Groove, even though that's heresy. I mean, but there is something about that that's just imminently rewatchable.
Absolutely. That's actually really cool to hear you mention that, because I've always said that Emperor's New Groove may be one of the most underrated films that Disney's ever made.
It's
definitely, I think it's classic.
Yeah, it's definitely the most underrated film.
Yeah. Yes, I totally agree.
Not that I would ever encourage anyone to do anything that would break any copyright laws whatsoever, but there is a documentary out there called The Sweatbox. If you've not seen this and you're an Emperor's New Groove fan, you need to find a way to get this. Disney had it produced as a behind-the-scenes documentary to go on the DVD, and they were contractually obliged to show it one time, and then they never showed it again. It is the most honest. I heard that. Yeah, it is the most honest, gut-wrenching look at the filmmaking process and what that film went through. So it's called The Sweatbox. You can occasionally find it bouncing around the internet. So I would definitely try and track that down if you're interested in that movie.
I will definitely be trying to find that one this weekend. That sounds like a blast.
Yeah.
Me too.
Well, Ben, it's been a tremendous honor. We look forward to the film, and we encourage all of our listeners to get on at Walt's Frozen Head on Twitter, find the Kickstarter link, donate, and donate some more, and tell your friends about it. Let's get this movie made, and let's let people know about it.
Thank you,
Ben,
guys.
Here.
Just thank you all. Thank you so much. It's been a tremendous honor. That is it. That's all we have for tonight. And we once again like to thank Ben at Walt's Frozen Head. You can find him on Twitter. You can find me on Twitter. I'm Cody at Inside Disney 407 on Twitter, like I said, or you can find me on my blog, InsideDisney407.blogspot.com. Steph, where can they find you on Twitter?
They can find me at Mehardy-Yoho, MEHARDEEYOHO ! And that's also good for Facebook and Periscope.
Ben, and if you couldn't tell, Steph is a big Pirates of the Caribbean fan.
I can tell.
Yeah, and I actually have to say, I have to tell you this. You're one of the first people that once I finally agreed to the Twitter sphere, you're one of the first people that I followed, and I just love everything you do. You keep me very entertained.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
I'm sure you're not alone in that sentiment there, Steph. I agree totally with you.
Here.
Joe, where can they find you? Where can they listen to us?
Well, they can find me over at Twitter and Facebook at DVC Radio. Also, stop by, pull up a chair, have a listen at www.dvcradio.com for Disney music and theme park music. And they can find the podcast on TuneIn, Android Play, iTunes, and I think on our podcast website, it is podcast.tmkbpodcast.com. They can also email us questions or comments to cast@tmkbpodcast.com.
All righty. There's a lot of platforms for you to listen to, folks. Once again, I'd like to thank Ben for coming on with us, and go donate. Give.
Go. We got to get this movie made.
Yes.
Come on.
I want to see what these further Avengers of Walt's Frozen Head have in store. We'd like to thank you all for listening, and until next time, have a magical week.
Thanks for listening to the Mouse Knows Best podcast. You're swell, and remember, it all started with a mouse. See you real soon.